When you think about a country as diverse as Malaysia, what do you think really holds it all together? It's a huge question, right? Well, the answer isn't always in the big, grand speeches. Most of the time, it's found in the little moments, the everyday things we all share. So let's dive in and see how those small moments build something truly massive.
So that brings us to the big question for today. Do we really get what unites us? We're going to try and find the answer, not in textbooks, but by looking at the real-life interactions that shape who we are as a nation, every single day.
And we're going to explore this through three core ideas, three pillars that really form the foundation of Malaysian unity. Now, these aren't some lofty academic theories. We're talking about the simple tolerance we show each other every day, the shared history that's kind of like our national DNA, and, you guessed it, the digital savvy that protects us online.
Okay, let's get into our first pillar, everyday tolerance. The big idea here is that real, lasting unity isn't built on some huge, one-time event. No, it's built in the small stuff, the tiny daily acts of respect and understanding. And these aren't just about being polite, it's literally nation-building in action.
And to really see what this looks like, let's picture a classic Malaysian scene, the Rumah Terbuka, the open house. You know, it's so much more than just a party. It's like a perfect little snapshot of our multicultural society all in one place. And it's right here, in this setting, that those small details of respect become so important.
So this is where a really key concept comes into play, shubha. Now, for our Muslim friends, this is a term for when something, especially food, is in a gray area. You know, its halal status is kind of doubtful or questionable. In the story from our source material, a friend gently points out that the caterer for the open house isn't actually halal certified. Now, that's a crucial, sensitive issue that could have easily been missed.
And what happened next shows us the perfect roadmap for a solution. Instead of getting into a big argument, the friends just talked. See, the concern was voiced openly, and they discussed it respectfully without anyone getting defensive. And boom, they found a solution together, like getting a different caterer and tweaking the schedule for prayer times. The big takeaway here is that tolerance really just starts with talking and being willing to respect where the other person is coming from.
This brings us perfectly to our second pillar, and I love this analogy, the nation's source code. This is all about changing how we think about things like history and education. It's way more than just cramming facts for an exam.
This quote from our source material just nails it. I want you to think of Malaysia like a really complex computer program. Our founding documents, the Rukun Negara, the Constitution, they're not just dusty old papers. They are the fundamental code, the operating system that our entire society runs on.
Let me break down the analogy for you. The Constitution and Rukun Negara, that's the source code. When we have racial issues pop up, they're like bugs or errors in the code. And if you don't understand the original code, well, you've got no chance of fixing the bugs, right? And that can lead to a system crash, or in our case, a breakdown of that unity we value so much.
So the point here is actually really powerful. Studying our history and civics isn't about looking backwards into the past. It's about understanding the basic logic, the code, that allows our super diverse society to function together today. If you don't get the code, you can't debug the system. It's that simple. And that brings us to our third and final pillar, the one for our times, the digital shield. This is where we take all those principles of tolerance and understanding and apply them to the wild west of the 21st century, the internet.
I mean, we've all seen it, haven't we? That one social media post, probably from a fake account, that is perfectly crafted to do one thing and one thing only, make people angry and create division. And our first instinct, our gut reaction, is to get mad and fire back a response.
But here's the absolute best piece of advice from our source material. You can't fight fire with fire. It just doesn't work. When you reply to hate with more hate, you're not beating the troll. You are literally doing their job for them by spreading their negativity even further.
So, the moment that provocation pops up on your screen, you've got two paths you can take. The emotional path is to lash out, share it, tell everyone how angry you are, and you end up spreading the hate. But the ethical path? That's when you pause, you verify the info, you report the content, and you simply refuse to play their game. That's how you put out the fire instead of pouring gasoline on it.
So, think about it like this. In the digital world, your personal ethics, that conscious choice you make to act with reason instead of rage, that becomes the most important shield we have. It's our last line of defense for our national unity against all the noise designed to tear us apart.
All right, so after all that, where do we land? Let's bring these three pillars together. You can almost think of them as the main ingredients in the recipe for our civilization,
for our unity. At the end of the day, it really boils down to these three things: the small, everyday acts of tolerance in our lives, a solid foundational education that helps us understand why our country works the way it does, and finally, the digital ethics we all need to practice to protect that unity online.
And this all leads to one simple but really powerful core message from our source material. It's not about pretending we're all the same. It's about celebrating our differences, and at the exact same time, actively and fiercely defending the unity that lets all those differences thrive side by side.
So, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with one final question, and this one is personal. These pillars we've been talking about, they aren't built by governments or institutions alone. They're built by each and every one of us, every single day. So the real question is, what's your role in all of this?